joining me in studio is one of our graduates, so to speak, Deirdre O'Donovan, councillor Deirdre O'Donovan, should I say, independent, elected this May. And first of all, Deirdre, congratulations on. I know it's a while ago, but congratulations again.
Thank you very much, Colin. It's still very new, let me tell you.
Yeah, it is, and with all this going on about the ice bucket challenges, I've seen Lord Mayor get involved in the ice bucket. I hope there isn't a chain now involving the independents on this fad.
Well, I was nominated by fellow independent county councillor Dermot Richardson. So in that vein, I nominated my fellow Rathfarnham female county councillors, right. Sinn Féin Sarah Holland, Fine Gales, Paul Donovan and Anne-Marie Dermody. So Sarah Holland, in fairness, she did it within the 24 hours. I've yet to hear back from Paula Donovan and Anne-Marie Dermody, so we're all looking forward to that. But no, there's not an independent county councillor conspiracy to douse all our...
You know, there'll be one of these programmes in 20 years, kind of looking back programmes, we all saying, what were we thinking? But, anyway.
But what a fantastic cause, and we've raised, raised nearly $1 million now. I mean,
if it's for a good cause, it's something,
yeah.
And anyway, on to the business of council matters that you're campaigning for, or speaking about as a newly elected councillor, Deirdre. Local property tax is a major issue this summer. We're in the consultation process now. The general consensus is a 15% reduction rate is a fair rate. This seems to be across the party board. And why do you think, first of all, that 15% is absolute fair measure at the moment, a realistic measure as well?
Well, realistic. I think it is. The problem that we had when we were out knocking on doors during the campaign, the talk was all from the government. The talk was recovery, and that just was not the reality on the doorsteps for the majority of the people we spoke to. Desperately struggling to pay their mortgage and feed their families. So the prospect of a 15% reduction in the property tax was, of course, something that we want to deliver for the people inside Dublin County Council. The issue that we had once we got elected and once we got into South Dublin County Council was that it was, the government still had to decide whether or not the total funds from the local property tax would be going to the local authorities. And I think literally only in the last couple of weeks that Brendan Howland said that yes, they will be getting the full amount. But the problem was at our last council meeting in July, on the 14th of July, we didn't know that. We didn't have that information. And there was a big push on from the, particularly, ironically enough, the governing parties. They were really pushing this. They wanted to bring in this 15% reduction. They had brought the motion forward at council level. And look, and it's a no-brainer. Of course we want, every single person there wanted to bring in the 15% reduction. But at that stage, we didn't know if the government were giving us the funding, and even if the government said yes, you can take the full whack of the local property tax collected, but what was going to happen then? Were the government then going to take away the rest of the funding that the government provides so that the council can run? Well, it's not even running effectively, because that's the problem. That for the last number of years, I mean, like last year, the council's overall budget for 2014 was 217.3 million. The year before that, it was 230 million. So I mean, it's been reduced and reduced and reduced. And on the 217 million, they can't deliver the most basic services. You have to look at the housing list and everything else. They can't.
Sorry to interrupt. Will this change now, because 15% is big? Will this change in small steps, obviously?
Well, the point is, so a lot of us felt we couldn't vote for the 15% reduction because we didn't have the information. And unfortunately, we had a situation where you had the government party councillors desperate to get the 15% in. So look, it was carried. The motion was carried for the 15%, and then after an hour, Colin, there's a toing and froing for an hour inside Dublin County Council as to whether that we were going to vote on it or not. the chief executive of South Dublin County Council said, listen lads, if you do bring it in and we can't operate with the 15% reduction, we're just going to override it anyway.
Just on the meetings itself, the different party leaders or deputies propose their different motions on local property tax and 15%. Maybe this is a very nuanced thing, but I couldn't figure out the little differences in the clauses of the motions. Did you?
No, either could I. You know, it was desperately disappointing. It really was. I'm completely new to this. I'm coming at this from a community background. I run our residents association. That's my background. So to go in and see the carry on, it really was. It was desperately disappointing. The people of South Dublin County, the residents of South Dublin County Council area deserve a whole lot better than what we're getting in there at the moment. It was the greatest exercise in grandstanding I have ever seen. We could have sold tickets for it, let me tell you, the carry-on that was going on in there. You know, instead of, and as I said, we were to and people from the same party standing up to say exactly the same thing as their party colleague had just said, but just to have speaking time, to be seen, to be standing up, to be saying things. And another thing, and I don't know if the public could see it, I mean, literally laptops and iPads at the ready so that these guys could be the first to tweet and Facebook, I have secured the 15% reduction in property tax. And as I say, I was laughing up my sleeve considering the number of government party councillors who were doing
they
this.
They are very tuned into the more instant communication now, whether you consider it obviously can be for good or bad. But you, when you were here first, you positioned yourself very much as an anti-austerity type of candidate, and we have a lot of those traditionally on the left, like socialists and so on. But I think you're coming from a more, what do you call, a squeeze middle, as you like to put it, background.
Right,
just to explain.
I'm right in the middle, and and that's I feel that there's nobody representing me. I'm not far left. I'm not. The reality is, business has to work. If business doesn't work, then my husband doesn't get paid, and I can't pay my mortgage, and I can't feed my kids. It's that simple. Business has to prosper. I felt, and one of the reasons that I ran as an independent was because I felt that there was nobody representing us. The government parties, on top of, and we're talking here about the property tax, on top of the austerity measures and the extra taxes and the cuts, and the property tax on top of that, and then to introduce a water tax. And
like how you say tax, because we've heard through the public the official term is water charge, and but
it's a tax.
It's
a tax. Listen, and for me, and what pushed me over the edge, and what forced me to run as an independent candidate was 85 million on consultants. Now, you don't have to be left or right or anywhere in the middle to see that's just ridiculous. That is, how can you spend 85 million on consultants to sell? And it's Bord Gáis moving from gas to water. Really? They need that much assistance? If they need that much assistance, are they the people for the job? Really and truly. So I'm coming at this from a squeeze middle. I have to balance my budget. I have to be able to make the money that's coming into my house every week. I have to make that last. I have to.
Do you think the centralisation process that we've seen in several departments now, Irish Water, that actually makes things worse?
I think...
from a services point of view?
I mean, as you were saying, if you have an issue, right, previously you could go to, and for an example, in South Dublin County Council, if you had a problem with your water, you could go into the customer service desk in South Dublin County Council and you could speak to somebody about it. And now, as you pointed out, centralised, and you speak to somebody on the phone, and with all due respect, and they're doing their best, but they don't care, and it's very difficult, if you're in a situation where that you're dealing with a crisis, or even like in Bord Gáis, if you have a bill that you can't pay or anything else, you're talking to some faceless person in a call centre somewhere down the country, and you know, look, you're just another number. Do you know what I mean?
So what's the ideal way for people to pay for water in? What would be your alternative as such? Or have you consulted with your fellow?
You know, look. The situation is, you know, under the troika, we have to pay for our water. We have to pay for it. As the situation as it stands, we have to pay for our water. Nobody likes it. But what I'm saying is, for God's sake, if you're setting up a company, can you use a bit of common sense and look at where you're spending your money? Look at how you're spending your money. And it's this wanton. Sure, look, the SAPs, the taxpayers, they'll pay it. The SAPs will pay it. They never stand up. They never get upset about it. You will spend the 85 million on consultants because the poor SAPs will end up paying for it. And that's their attitude towards the general public, like myself. And that's why that's what has to change.
We hear, maybe not so much in the water industry, but we hear about consultants need to be paid well because they'll go to the bigger countries. Does that have any
you cannot honestly and really and truly and tell me that there was no. We're looking at now, genuinely, we're looking at Bord Gáis moving from one energy source to another. Do you really mean to tell me that that we had to spend 85? Who are these consultants? Were they, you know, was it put out to tender? How many different companies were asked? Could they get involved? I mean, it just beggars belief.
Okay, and on the issue made in your campaign platform, you said about our kids, the future, paying for the likes of, you know, water charges, which you feel are heavy and so on. Do you see any bright light in this years from now, or do you think that the next generation are going to pay a heavier price, going to be heavier tax?
I think you know, being in the council, there are 9 of us working together as independents. 8 independents and Francis Nuttall from the Green Party. We're working together. We are, you know, and there's lots of other county councillors in there who are first-time county councillors. These are people, again, who wouldn't have necessarily ever been involved with politics, but just felt things are so bad that they could not sit at home in all good conscience, sit at home anymore and say, this is dreadful, what are we going to do? And I think that gives us great hope. You know, you're looking at people like myself coming from a community background who want to make a difference, who care about our community, who aren't dealing with you know, the greasy pole political party system where you're trying to stand over your comrade to get to the top of the party. We are working together for our communities. Our community is our top priority.
On the issue of community, within Knocklion and the ward you represent, how is this community spirit, so to speak, how has this become evident?
And we have a phenomenal community spirit in Knocklion, in the greater Rathfarnham area. And this is again another reason why I decided to run. You know, when you look at the number of community groups, the number of residents associations, you know, you're halfway there with people like this. They're activated, they're organised, they're energised, they care about their community, they care about where they live, and they're out there and they're giving their time, they're giving their energy to their community, and they go to the South Dublin County Council and say, look, we're doing this, will you give us a hand? And they're told no. So, you know, you have a bunch of people, you have communities who are doing their very best, but they're not getting the support.
Yeah, and just going on to the Progressive Alliance, you decided to join this group. It's comprised of, you know, like Sinn Féin, Labour, Independents, One Green, and so on. When were you first approached actually about
the Monday after the election?
That quickly, yeah.
And it was fantastic because, you know, one of the big issues that out on the door, and people were like, well, look, I'd like to vote for you, but what can you do? You're one person, what can you do? And that was why when when there were a few of us then getting together, and then it was like, let's get all the independents together. And it is a fantastic opportunity. And as one person, of course it's very hard to get something done. As a group of 9 people in a council of 40 members, that's a fantastic position to be in, and we're very optimistic about it. And we look, because we're not a party, we don't have a party whip system. If somebody doesn't agree with something, well then they don't have to agree with it, and then the whole thing doesn't fall apart.
What in particular about their mission statement or their values that appeals to you, or say, well, okay, we got it right there?
It's again, it's just all coming back to delivering basic services and supporting the people in our community. That's what we need to do. And particularly when for the majority of people in the Knockline Rathfarnham area, the only interaction they have with South Dublin County Council is tree cutting and grass cutting. That's the reality for the people in my area. And so they're not asking for a huge amount. And so then to come back and say, well, look, now you have to pay property tax, but don't worry, you're going to get fantastic services. That's just not the reality. That's not the reality. So you've asked these people who ask very little of South Dublin County Council, so you then come to them and say, well, look, you now need to stump up about 400 quid a year. So you can't then turn around and say, well, no, sorry, actually, we can't come out and cut your trees as a 2-year backlog. That doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And so, for the Progressive Alliance, for the mission statement,
well, I was thinking, it says, the economy's stupid, as we've heard, as they have a job strategy within this council term. Do you have confidence that the council, working with the councillors, will provide some small, we hear the word recovery a lot, but
the will is there. Yeah. The will is there. As I said, there's 9 Sinn Féin councillors. There's ourselves, and Sinn Féin have an awful lot to prove. They have a huge amount to deliver, the same as ourselves. So the will is there. The will and the drive and the energy, it's there.
And recently there was an overwhelming support on the council level for marriage equality, which was another issue talked about or debated in July. Are you proud to see this overwhelming vote in favour of it? Obviously the referendum's next year. Yeah,
the referendum is next year. From my point of view, if 2 people are in love and want to commit to each other, and I think absolutely they should be allowed to do that. And I think it is how very progressive of our council to support that.
Well, yeah, progressive, it's Progressive Alliance, and I would be seeing widely as a progressive measure. And the polls tend to say at the moment anyway that of the voting population, because usually in referenda there's not a huge turnout, but the voting population are overwhelmingly in support. Would you be confident then when it comes to the referendum itself that it will pass comfortably?
I would imagine that it would. I can't see. I can't see, what problems there could be. I think, genuinely, people, they support the rights of other people just to do the most basic thing that every other citizen in the country can do. And, it's not going to have a huge knock-on effect.
We'll say as well that, recently has been talking as well, not everyone supports, and we'd be happy to hear that as well within the context if we can get anyone on. So also on just on your work now post council election, post getting elected, do you feel it's stressful at times?
It is so busy. It is just unbelievably busy. I think the kids are back in school next week, and so that will make it a lot easier. The summer now has been very very busy. With just trying to balance the kids and trying to get bits and pieces done as well. But look, enjoying it and loving it and delighted to be able to represent the people in my community.
Deirdre O'Donovan of Independent and Progressive Alliance, thank you for coming into studio, and we wish you the best in the future.
Thank you so much, Colin.